Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Junia Doan's Spark. I'm Junia Doan, and thank you for joining us today. With me is entrepreneur Justin Frost, owner of Past Preservations. Welcome, Justin. Justin, tell us about your enterprise, Past Preservations.
Started early spring this year. I actually got involved in my family genealogy, and I was starting to track down some graves of ancestors. And I had found quite a few of them, and I found that they were quite dirty. So I started to research how I could clean them up and hopefully preserve them for my grandkids, my great grandkids to go and enjoy. So I found this product. I actually found it on YouTube of all places. I found this product called D2 Biological Solution. And I found a place in Michigan that distributed it. Actually, I was buying it from Amazon for a long time at a inflated price. And I just started cleaning headstones.
What actually is the process when you clean a very old headstone?
The first thing I do is I get some water and I wet down the stone. That kind of helps to break the surface tension of the growth on the stone. Once it's wet, you can brush the growth off, like the moss and the lichen and things like that that are physically growing on the stone. After that, you coat the entire stone with D2, and I give it a light brushing with the D2 just to allow the D2 to work into the stone. I let that sit for 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes I'll go and I'll work on another stone if I have another one close by. It's important, though, that you never let that solution dry on the stone. If you do, then it can cause the stone to stain, and then it's harder to get clean. So then once you've let it sit for a little while, you rinse it, scrub it a little bit more, rinse it again, and then spray with D2. And you'll probably do that another 2 to 3 times, depending on how bad the stone is, how much growth, mold, and stuff is going into the stone.
Did I understand you the first 2 washings are with water, or do you start right away with a solution?
So the first is water. Wetting the stone, you can go up to a stone that has moss on it, lichen and stuff like that, and try to brush it just dry. And you might get the stuff off, but you have to work at it pretty hard. The water reduces the surface tension of the material growing on the stone, and it allows it to kind of roll up and fall off a little easier. It's a big difference. It really is a big difference if you go dry versus wet.
And do you use a wire brush or do you use a bristle brush?
I use a shoe brush. It's a Good Grips brand shoe brush, and I have another smaller one that's more like a toothbrush for working into small cracks and crevices, fine details and stuff like that.
I thought it was interesting that if you leave it on to the point of dryness, it actually worsens it. It discolors it.
Yeah, one thing that can happen is once you start to scrub with the D2, the D2 can start to turn like this brown color or even black, depending on what kind of growth is on the stone. There's a lot of different kinds of growth on stone. And if you leave it on, that color that the D2 turns will kind of seep into the top layer of the stone, and it eventually will work its way out. You can get it to go away, but it's just an extra step you have to do in the process. Instead of going back twice to clean that one, you'll have to go back 3 times typically.
And then you do it another 3 or 4 times with a solution.
Right. And every time it's the same thing. Before you leave, you spray it, and that will continue to soak into the stone. It'll continue to work on that biological growth and kill it. And then the wind, the rain, the sunlight will aid with cleaning of that stone. So Mother Nature does a little bit of the work for you.
So how do you know when you've done enough, or can you do too much?
You can do too much. If you go to some of these older stones are they're a real sandy, have a real sandy finish to them. That's because of acid rain and stuff over many years have kind of worn the finish off. That's kind of stuff you're not going to stop because that's just nature. But you can over scrub. You can use too stiff of a brush. You can use, some people I've seen use metal scrapers, which is not,
Ooh.
if you're going to scrape on a stone, the best thing to use is like a paint stirrer stick, something that's a soft wood, even softer plastics, things like that.
Interesting. And does it apply to all stones, whether they're sandstones or basalt, or what kind of stones are used for headstones in a cemetery?
So there's a wide array of stone. There's limestone, there's granite, there's marble. There was even an era where they made grave markers out of magnesium, or I guess they call it some kind of pot metal or something. It's like a mixture of a lot of different stuff. Then you have bronze markers. There's all kinds of. I don't think there's really anything that they won't make a headstone out of. I've even seen hand poured concrete headstones.
So would this work on metal?
It does. It works on metal. It's people use it on their deck. If your deck has started to grow a little bit of algae on it, you can spray it on there and it'll kill it. You just rinse it off.
Ooh, I like that.
Aluminum. I used it on the aluminum siding on my house.
And what did it do?
It kills the algae and it will actually keep the algae and the lichen and stuff from growing for quite some time.
So it doesn't wash away with rain, subsequent rain?
It will, but it has the ability to kind of soak into the material. There, most metal, all stone has pores, and it will settle into those pores. And then every time it's re-wetted, it's reactivated.
Got it. And also on wood decking, or is that not wood decking, but composite decking, plastic decking?
Yeah, you can use it on anything. I know people that have used it on their cars. They park under trees and
but would it work on wood? I mean, natural wood?
Yeah. Yep.
My goodness, what a product.
I know. I've been saying ever since I started using it that they undermarket it, because it really is a good all-purpose product. The problem with it is it's the price point. I buy it in bulk from a distributor down in Holland, Michigan, and I get it for about $45 a gallon shipped my house. If you want to get it from Amazon, you're going to pay $81 to $82 a gallon shipped. So there's, you can go and buy a deck wash at at Lowe's or Home Depot for $20 a gallon and hook it onto the end of your hose and do whatever you need to do, you know.
The same
But
product?
nope, it's a different product, you know. They don't really
that you
market
don't like as well.
right. Well, so the D2 and Wet and Forget, the only two products that the national cemeteries have approved for headstone grave marker cleaners.
Well, you provide a big service. What if it were glass or plastic? Would it clean also?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've never had the need to clean any glass or plastic with it, I guess.
Interesting. So this is a new business. Are you hoping to promote it in some way?
Yeah, I've promoted on Facebook quite a bit locally here. I've got business cards everywhere. I've got a friend that hands out business cards every chance he gets. I had a press release in the Midland Daily News 3 months ago, I think now. I've been in the Gratiot County News paper over there. Me and my friend cleaning and restoring a Native American cemetery in St. Louis.
You have a daytime job, correct?
Well, I work swing
Dow?
shift at Dow County.
Going in right now, but normally?
Yes.
So this is a nighttime weekend undertaking?
This is my day off stuff I do. This is what I do on my days off. I work swing shifts, so I'm sometimes on days, sometimes on nights. Just whenever I get a chance to go and do it, you know.
For say a stone that's maybe 80, 100 years old, how much time would you need to spend on it?
It's usually about a week. I can usually get just about anything done in a week to 9 days. My
9 days of work?
Yeah, but I only visit it 3 times in that 9 days. You have to give the product time to work.
Right.
And it does a lot of the work for you, but each time I visit a stone to clean it, an hour there, actively working on the stone. So my third great grandfather's stone was set in 1900. Actually, it's the family marker. It was set when my third great grandmother passed away, and that took me. That was the first stone I did. It probably took me 3 or 4 months to get it clean.
But what a gift.
Yes.
I mean, to people who have it done or you do it for. I mean, first of all, I like celebrating the ancestors anyway and showing them respect by keeping things clean. But how nice to know that they can be kept clean. I never knew that.
The thing is there's always been people that have wanted to do things like this. My wife's grandfather, every year he would go and clean his grandfather's headstone. And it's this great big tall, it's like 8.5, 9 foot tall obelisk.
Right.
And he would take it and clean it with Dawn dish soap and water, which is not great. There's a lot of ways you can clean a headstone that are not good for the stone. A lot of people like to use bleach. We have
that would be a common choice.
We have a lot of Civil War markers that are this beautiful white stone, and people like to go out and put bleach all over them. Just this last summer, I witnessed the effects of bleach cleaning one of those stones. It has completely disintegrated the bottom half of the stone because bleach is sodium hypochlorite. And the sodium is what's left behind once the bleach dries. And that salt works its way into the stone and recrystallizes and expands, and it starts to chip that stone away, little pieces. And eventually you end up with a pile of rocks.
I'm so glad you've taken this on. And what does your family think of all this?
Well, my kids love to go and participate. That's something that actually we drive by the Midland City Cemetery almost every day, and my daughter always says, "Daddy, there's a cemetery," and she likes to go and help.
Likes
My
to be
son
with
likes
her
to go and
dad.
help. What was that?
I think it's wonderful that you have a project that interests you, that your children can participate in and see a difference because of their participation.
That
It's rare. I mean, there's soccer and things like that, but I like it when it's intergenerational. And you have an
right?
interest in history, yes?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. In fact, another part of this whole story is I am a hobby metal detectorist, and I go out and I like to metal detect places that my family have lived and settled, but significant historical areas also, uh, logging camps, railroad grades, things like that, things that I can read about in our local history, and I can share it with my kids.
Now, your family's been here something like 150 years,
It'll be
but why did they
150.
come originally? Do you know?
It'll be 155 years in 2021. We've lived in Midland County, and my third great grandfather came here from New York right around the time of the Civil War. Um, he came here. The first real occupation I can find for him is that he had a shingle mill, um,
Oh,
and his oldest son can remember going and working at the log camp in the summertime. His mother, or my third great grandmother, would go and she'd do the cooking and the wash, and Leonard would run the mill and the camp, and the kids would help with whatever they could help with.
what a challenging life, huh?
The more I research about it, the more I think it's no wonder people didn't survive back then.
And no
You
wonder
know.
they were strong characters too.
Oh yes, right. I I see that same. There's something to be said about um, the way things carry through generations, because I see that same character with my grandfather, who's going to be 87 this year, and he goes out and cuts wood by himself every day or whenever he feels like it, and just a real hard worker. And there's, I think, even though he didn't know uh, Leonard, my third great grandfather, that characteristic carried down through the generations. You know?
How would you describe that? Just sort of self-reliance or the ability to build things or to paddle
Well,
your own canoe, as they used to say?
the men on the Frost side of the family have always been what you would call a jack of all trades, master of none. Um, my my grandpa, my dad, as far as I know, I never got to meet my great grandfather. He was the same way. They just could do a lot of things because you had to be able to do it to survive. And one thing my grandpa told me when I was little was that when people or people that you live close to need help, you just help them,
Yes.
and you don't wait for them to help you back or expect anything in return, because back when he was growing up and when his father was growing up, that little bit of help that you could give somebody may have made the difference between life and death for them.
I know that's a singularly American trait, is to help the neighbor, in
Right.
part because who else could they turn to? It's them or nothing. But also, I do believe that sharing is caring, and there's a lot of tragedy in life, as you've seen within this flood
Right.
this year, and people rushing in here. So it's nice to see that those kinds of good values come down the generations. I'm really happy about that, or pleased about that. What do you try to teach your own children by way of values?
I had a boss when I was a supervisor when I was probably about 19 years old. And he said something that's always stuck with me. And that was just do what you know is right. And that always kind of stuck with me. And it's something I've tried to teach my son. He's 6. And it's something that I tell him all the time. He'll come to me with a problem, and I'll say, hey, so and so was picking on somebody at school, and I'll talk to him about it. And I say, look, you just do what's right by the person that's being wronged. And if you do that, you can never feel bad about what you've done.
What tremendous advice that is. I don't actually understand all this cyberbullying, the bullying, and this in-place bullying. What would you, if you were a teacher, or you were advising some third graders or seventh graders, wherever it starts, what would you tell them?
I guess my best advice is just to be kind. Be kind, and do what you know is right. If you walk away from a situation with a bad feeling, then you know it probably wasn't right.
Interesting. How did you and your wife meet, if I may ask?
Well, we're not entirely sure if we went to preschool together or not, but we were, I think, 13 years old. We went out to a movie with some friends, and it was just kind of a group of people. That was the first time we met, really. And then um, my parents got divorced, and I moved to Texas for like 9 months with my mom. That's where she's from. And then when I came back for high school, we kind of met back up and we started dating. And I think we've been together for 15 years now.
You know what's so interesting? I find it. So I was born and raised in New York, but I moved here following my marriage. And I found out that when you move, you really start all over again, in the sense that nobody knows or cares truly what
Right,
happened before you arrived. And so it's truly a blessing to have a spouse who knows the stories, because she lived it with you or she observed it with you. And the gift of shared memory is just, well, as I call it, a gift, something to treasure. And and your grandfather, you visit him often. What does he talk about?
I like to get him to talk about things that he experienced as a child, things that he remembers people talking about. Um, we like to get together, and I usually will have Grandma and Grandpa pull the shoebox of pictures out, and we'll go through the pictures and talk about things, and that sparks a lot of little stories from him. So
It's good to have something to look at, like a picture. I know my grandson FaceTimed me last night, and I often say something. Just want you to know, when I was 5 or 6, we did not have portable phones. We did not
right,
have FaceTime, And you will tell your grandchildren, that when you were growing up and they have something else, that you didn't have it either. But
right,
it's it's really nice. One of the great things about the shut-in for me um, is that you can be anywhere now because of Zoom. And if you're
right,
anywhere, that came to very few. The time and the cost of travel. was
Right.
almost beyond people to do. And now you can sort of drop in. I mean, in cemeteries, there must be conferences and lectures, and you could be talking one day about your experience. Anyway, I
Right.
really want to thank you for participating, Justin. I've certainly learned a lot about you and that I'd like to share, if you don't mind. And that is a certain persistence, a certain interest, a certain, as I say, respect, but admiration for generations, and also to do your part in your time here, to know you're part of a necklace of experience through the generations, and to try and prove things is is beyond wonderful. Involving your children is beyond wonderful, and more than that is your desire to do the right thing and be kind and be that kind of person that we all can rely on. That's that is a gift in your generation, without saying too much more about that. So I invite the people who tune in to take this into their lives as inspiration and to do something. I always close a program like this, to do something kind for someone they know and someone they don't know, and do it every day. And thank you for tuning in. And for sure, I will see you next time. Be well, be safe, choose life, and remember, be kind. We all need that. So long.
To contact Junia, send her an email at juniadonsthespark@gmail.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadonsthespark.com. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Junia Doan's The Spark.
Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.